The city was alive with energy, a chaotic symphony of honking cars, bustling pedestrians, and the distant hum of construction. Towering skyscrapers pierced the sky, their glass facades reflecting the golden glow of the setting sun. Yet, amidst this glittering world of wealth and opportunity, Mia Rodriguez lived a life that felt like it belonged in an entirely different universe. Mia was only 22, but her days were packed with responsibilities far beyond her years. Every morning, she woke up before dawn to prepare for her first job at a small cafe tucked into a quiet corner of the city. The cafe wasn't fancy, just a cozy spot where regulars came for their daily dose of caffeine and a warm smile. And Mia always delivered both. Her cheerful demeanor made customers feel welcome, even if they were rushing through their busy mornings. But behind her bright smile lay a weight no one could see. After finishing her shift at the cafe, Mia hurried to her second job, cleaning offices in a high-rise building downtown. It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid just enough to keep food on the table and medicine in the cabinet for her mother, Elena. Elena had been sick for years, battling a condition that drained not only her health, but also their savings. Medical bills piled up faster than Mia could pay them off, leaving her constantly worried about how she'd make ends meet. Still, Mia refused to give up hope. She believed that kindness, hard work, and perseverance would eventually lead her to better days. On this particular evening, rain poured down in sheets, turning the streets into rivers of shimmering reflections. Mia pulled her thin jacket tighter around herself as she stepped out of the cafe, her sneakers splashing through puddles. The air smelled of wet pavement and car exhaust, but Mia didn't mind. She had grown used to such discomforts. What mattered most was getting to her next job on time. As she walked, her thoughts drifted to her mother. Belinda had once dreamed of giving Mia a better life, a life filled with opportunities she herself never had. But illness had stolen those dreams, leaving Mia to fight for them alone. Despite everything, Mia held on to her mother's words. Kindness is the strongest thing you can give to the world. Those words guided her every day, even when life felt overwhelmingly unfair. When Mia finally reached the office building, she shook off the raindrops from her hair and took a deep breath. The lobby was eerily quiet, lit only by dim overhead lights. Most people had long since gone home, leaving the space feeling almost abandoned. As she signed in with the security guard, she noticed a man walking briskly toward the elevator. He was impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his polished shoes clicking against the marble floor. His face was tense, his eyes glued to his phone as if he were dealing with something urgent. For a brief moment, their eyes met as they passed each other. The man seemed distracted, barely acknowledging her presence. Mia shrugged it off, assuming he was just another executive working late. Little did she know, this fleeting encounter would set off a chain of events that would change her life. And his, forever. Mia's first day at the university felt like stepping onto another planet. The campus was sprawling, with grand brick buildings surrounded by manicured lawns and towering trees. Students bustled about, chatting animatedly or hurrying to their next class, many of them carrying expensive laptops and wearing designer clothes. It was a stark contrast to the world Mia had left behind, a world of late-night shifts, cramped apartments, and constant worry about making ends meet. As she walked through the gates, clutching her schedule and a worn notebook, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't belong. She was older than most of her classmates, who seemed fresh out of high school, brimming with confidence and privilege. They laughed easily, forming friendships without effort, while Mia hesitated, unsure how to bridge the gap between her reality and theirs. Every time someone smiled at her or said hello, she wondered if they could see the cracks in her carefully constructed facade, the exhaustion from years of struggle, the lingering fear that she might not be good enough. But Mia wasn't one to give up easily. Determined to make the most of this opportunity, she threw herself into her studies. Business management wasn't easy. Concepts like market analysis, financial modeling, and strategic planning were entirely new to her. Late nights became routine as she pored over textbooks and scribbled notes until her hand cramped. There were moments when self-doubt crept in, whispering that she'd never catch up, but she silenced those thoughts by reminding herself why she was here: for her mother, for her future, and for the chance to create something meaningful. To her surprise, Alexander remained involved in her journey. He invited her to networking events hosted by Kane Enterprises, introducing her to influential figures in the business world. At first, Mia felt out of place among executives and entrepreneurs, intimidated by their polished demeanors and confident handshakes. But Alexander took the time to mentor her, teaching her how to navigate conversations, present ideas clearly, and carry herself with poise. "Confidence isn't about pretending you know everything," he told her once. "It's about believing in your ability to learn." Through these interactions, Mia began to blossom. She discovered a passion for problem-solving and innovation, skills she hadn't realized she possessed. Her professors noticed her dedication and encouraged her to join group projects and extracurricular activities. Slowly but surely, she started building connections, not just with peers, but also with mentors who saw potential in her. One person who played a pivotal role in Mia's transformation was Emily Kane, Alexander's daughter. Initially skeptical of Mia's presence in her father's life, Emily warmed up after witnessing Mia's genuine humility and determination. Over coffee one afternoon, Emily opened up about her own struggles growing up under the shadow of her father's success. Their shared experiences forged an unexpected bond, and soon, Emily became both a friend and a guide, helping Mia navigate the complexities of balancing ambition with authenticity. Despite her progress, challenges remained. Some classmates resented her privileged status, assuming she bought her way into the program rather than earned it. Rumors spread about her relationship with Alexander, painting her as someone seeking favors rather than working hard. Though hurt, Maya refused to let negativity define her. Instead, she channeled her energy into proving herself through results, acing exams, delivering compelling presentations, and contributing innovative ideas during team discussions. By the end of her first year, Mia had transformed in ways she never imagined. She no longer saw herself as the girl scrubbing floors or serving coffee. She was a student, a dreamer, and a fighter determined to build a better future. And though she still carried the weight of her past, she now wore it as armor, a reminder of how far she'd come and how much farther she intended to go. Years passed, and Mia's transformation was nothing short of extraordinary. She graduated at the top of her class, earning accolades not just for her academic excellence, but also for her leadership and commitment to service. On the day of her graduation, she stood on stage in a cap and gown that felt like armor, looking out at a sea of faces, her mother beaming with pride, Emily cheering loudly, and Alexander watching quietly from the front row. It was a moment she had once thought impossible, yet here she was, ready to step into the world as someone who could make a difference. But Mia wasn't content to stop there. Inspired by everything she had learned and the struggles she herself had faced, she founded a nonprofit organization called Pathways to Hope. The mission was simple yet powerful: to provide education, healthcare access, and job training to underprivileged communities. Using her knowledge of business management, Mia structured the organization to be sustainable and impactful, partnering with local businesses and government programs to create lasting change. Her first major project was setting up free vocational training centers in low-income neighborhoods. These centers offered courses in skills like coding, graphic design, and entrepreneurship, giving people tools to break free from cycles of poverty. One of the students, a single mother named Rosa, reminded Mia so much of herself years ago, working tirelessly to provide for her family while dreaming of something better. When Rosa graduated from the program and landed a stable job, Mia couldn't help but tear up. This was why she did what she did, to give others the same chance she'd been given. As Pathways to Hope grew, Mia became a prominent figure in social impact circles. She spoke at conferences, wrote articles, and collaborated with other changemakers to tackle systemic issues. Her story resonated deeply because it wasn't just about success. It was about resilience, gratitude, and paying it forward. People were inspired by how far she'd come and how she used her platform to uplift others. One evening, Alexander hosted a charity gala to celebrate Pathways to Hope's achievements. The event was held in a grand ballroom adorned with sparkling chandeliers and elegant floral arrangements. Guests included philanthropists, entrepreneurs, and community leaders, all eager to support Mia's cause. As she stepped onto the stage to deliver a speech, the room fell silent, every eye fixed on her. "Tonight is not about me," Mia began, her voice steady despite the nerves fluttering in her chest. "It's about everyone who believes in the power of kindness and opportunity. I wouldn't be standing here if someone hadn't chosen to believe in me." A young woman scrubbing floors late at night. "That act of faith changed my life forever." She paused, glancing toward Alexander, who sat smiling faintly. "But this journey isn't just mine. It belongs to every person who has ever struggled and refused to give up. To every parent working multiple jobs to feed their children. To every student studying by candlelight because they know education is their ticket to a brighter future." The audience erupted into applause, moved by her words. Later that evening, Alexander approached her, his expression warm with pride. "You've done more than repay me, Mia," he said softly. "You've shown the world what true leadership looks like." Mia smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. Though her path had been challenging, it had led her exactly where she was meant to be. She no longer saw herself as just a poor girl or a scholarship recipient. She was a force for good, using her experiences to inspire and empower others. And as she looked around the room, at the lives she'd touched and the friendships she'd built, Maya realized something profound. Kindness truly does ripple outward. The small act of saving Alexander's life had sparked a chain reaction, transforming not only her destiny, but countless others along the way. The man in the tailored suit moved with purpose, his polished shoes clicking rhythmically against the marble floor of the office building. He barely glanced at Mia as he passed her by, his attention fully consumed by the glowing screen of his phone. His fingers typed furiously, and his brow was furrowed in concentration, as if whatever he was dealing with couldn't wait another second. To Mia, he looked like any other high-powered executive, someone who lived in a world so different from hers that their paths would never truly cross. But there was something about him that caught her eye, even if only for a moment. Maybe it was the way he carried himself, with confidence but also a hint of exhaustion, as though the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. Or maybe it was the subtle tension in his jaw, a sign that he was grappling with something far more serious than just another late-night meeting. Whatever it was, Maya felt a flicker of curiosity, though she quickly dismissed it. After all, people like him didn't notice people like her. As Mia headed toward the supply closet to grab her cleaning cart, she couldn't help but wonder what brought such an important-looking man to this building so late at night. The offices here were home to some of the city's most influential companies, but they usually emptied out long before now. Only a handful of employees ever stayed past midnight, and they were almost always low-level workers like herself. Janitors, security guards, or technicians fixing last-minute issues. Still, Mia pushed those thoughts aside. She had her own responsibilities to focus on. Grabbing her cart, she began her routine, starting with the lower floors where the smaller firms had their offices. The work was monotonous but familiar, emptying trash bins, wiping down desks, vacuuming carpets, and making sure everything looked spotless for the morning rush. As she worked, the sound of rain tapping against the windows provided a soothing backdrop, masking the silence of the otherwise empty building. By the time she reached the top floor, fatigue was beginning to creep into her muscles. This level housed the headquarters of Kane Enterprises, one of the largest corporations in the country. The name Alexander Kane was etched in bold letters on the frosted glass doors leading to the executive suites. Even Mia, who rarely paid attention to business news, had heard of Alexander Kane. the self-made billionaire known for his ruthless efficiency and innovative ideas. He was a legend in the corporate world, a man whose decisions could sway markets and shape industries. Mia hesitated for a moment outside the suite, wondering if she should knock or announce herself. But then she remembered that executives like him wouldn't care about someone like her. They never did. So, she quietly slipped inside, pushing her cart ahead of her. The lights were dimmed, casting long shadows across the sleek furniture and polished surfaces. It was eerily quiet, the kind of stillness that made every small noise echo unnaturally. She started tidying up the reception area, humming softly to fill the silence. As she worked, she noticed a faint glow coming from one of the inner offices. Peering through the partially opened door, she saw the same man from earlier, the one with the tailored suit and the tense expression. He was seated at a large desk, surrounded by papers and files scattered haphazardly around him. His tie was loosened, and his jacket lay draped over the back of his chair. For a brief second, Maya thought about knocking to let him know she was there, but something stopped her. He seemed so engrossed in his work, so lost in thought, that interrupting felt intrusive. Instead, she decided to clean the adjacent rooms first, giving him space to finish whatever he was doing. As she moved from room to room, her mind wandered back to the mysterious man. Who was he? Why was he here so late? And what could possibly be so urgent that it kept him working into the early hours of the morning? These questions lingered in the back of her mind, though she knew she'd likely never find answers. People like him existed in a completely different orbit, one that someone like Mia could only observe from afar. Little did she know, fate had other plans. As Mia entered her second year at the university, she found herself facing challenges that tested not only her academic abilities, but also her emotional resilience. The whispers and rumors about her connection to Alexander Kane had grown louder, fueled by jealousy and misunderstanding. Some classmates accused her of coasting on his generosity, while others speculated that their relationship was more than just mentorship. These accusations stung deeply, not because they were true, but because they undermined all the hard work she put into earning her place. Mia tried to ignore the negativity, focusing instead on her studies and extracurricular projects. But avoiding gossip wasn't easy, especially when it seeped into group assignments or networking events. During one particularly grueling team project, a classmate openly questioned whether Mia's contributions were necessary, implying she was simply along for the ride. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment, and for a moment, she considered stepping back to avoid further conflict. However, something inside her refused to give in. "I didn't ask for any special treatment," Maya said firmly, meeting the classmate's gaze. "I'm here because I earned it, just like everyone else. If you have an issue with my work, let's talk about it constructively. Otherwise, we're wasting time." Her response silenced the room, earning nods of reluctant respect from some teammates. From then on, Mia made sure her contribution spoke louder than any rumors ever could. She poured extra hours into research, volunteered for leadership roles within her group, and delivered presentations so compelling that even her harshest critics couldn't deny her talent. Despite these victories, the weight of imposter syndrome loomed over her. There were nights when she lay awake, wondering if she truly belonged in this world of privilege and opportunity. Was she still the same Mia who cleaned offices and served coffee, or had she changed so much that she no longer recognized herself? These questions haunted her, making her question whether accepting Alexander's help had been the right decision. It was during one of these low moments that Emily Kane reached out. Sensing Mia's struggle, Emily invited her to dinner at her apartment, a cozy space filled with books, plants, and warm lighting. Over steaming bowls of homemade pasta, Emily shared stories of her own battles with self-doubt and societal expectations. "Dad's success is part of my identity, whether I like it or not," Emily admitted. "But I've learned that I can define myself beyond that. You're doing the same thing, Mia. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Emily's words struck a chord, reminding Mia that growth often comes with discomfort. For the first time, She allowed herself to embrace both sides of her journey, the hardships that shaped her and the opportunities that propelled her forward. She realized that feeling torn between two worlds didn't mean she didn't belong. It meant she was building a bridge between them. To combat lingering guilt about accepting Alexander's generosity, Mia decided to take action. She began volunteering at local shelters and community centers, using her growing knowledge of business management to help underprivileged individuals access resources and training programs. This work reignited her sense of purpose, grounding her in the values she'd held since childhood: kindness, perseverance, and gratitude. Meanwhile, Alexander continued to support her quietly, attending her presentations and celebrating her achievements. Though their interactions remained professional, there was an unspoken bond between them, a mutual respect forged through trust and shared experiences. When Mia confided in him about her struggles, he offered simple yet profound advice. "You'll never please everyone, Mia. Focus on pleasing yourself and staying true to your principles." By the end of her third year, Mia had not only proven herself academically, but also built a reputation as someone who cared deeply about giving back. The same classmates who once doubted her now sought her guidance, recognizing her determination and integrity. And though the journey hadn't been easy, Mia knew she was stronger for it, ready to step into the next chapter of her life with confidence and clarity. As Mia finished cleaning the last of the executive offices on the top floor, she heard a faint sound that made her pause. It was soft at first, almost like a muffled groan, but it grew louder and more distinct as she moved closer to the source. Her heart began to race as she realized it was coming from the same office where she'd seen the man earlier, the one with the tailored suit and furrowed brow. Dropping her cleaning supplies, Mia hurried toward the partially open door. Pushing it wider, she froze in shock at what she saw. The man was lying on the floor, his body crumpled near his desk. His phone had slipped from his hand and lay just inches away, its screen dark. For a moment, time seemed to stop as fear gripped Mia's chest. She didn't know who this man was or why he was here so late, but none of that mattered now. All that mattered was helping him. Without wasting another second, Mia rushed to his side and knelt down. He wasn't moving, and his face was pale, beads of sweat forming on his forehead, despite the cool air in the room. Panic bubbled up inside her, but she forced herself to stay calm. "Sir, can you hear me?" she called out, shaking his shoulder gently. There was no response. His breathing was shallow and uneven, and his pulse felt weak when she pressed her fingers against his wrist. Mia's mind raced. She didn't have medical training, but years ago, she'd attended a free community workshop on basic first aid. The instructor had emphasized how critical quick action could be in emergencies like this. CPR. They had practiced CPR during the session. Could she remember how to do it? Taking a deep breath, Mia pushed aside her doubts. She couldn't afford to hesitate. Every second counted. Positioning herself beside him, she tilted his head back slightly to open his airway, just as she'd been taught. Then, placing her hands firmly on his chest, she began compressions, hard and fast, counting under her breath. 1, 2, 3, all the way to 30. After each set, she tilted his head again and gave rescue breaths, praying silently that it would work. Her arms burned with exertion, and her own breathing became labored, but she refused to stop. Minutes passed, though they felt like hours. Just as despair started creeping in, the man suddenly gasped, his body jerking as life returned to him. Relief flooded through Mia, but she knew better than to let her guard down. Keeping him steady, she spoke softly to keep him conscious. "You're okay," she reassured him, even though she wasn't sure if he could understand. "Help is coming." With trembling hands, Mia grabbed the man's phone and dialed emergency services. Her voice shook as she explained the situation, giving the address of the building and describing what had happened. The operator assured her help was on the way and instructed her to continue monitoring him until paramedics arrived. While waiting, Mia stayed by his side, holding his hand and speaking gently to keep him alert. Despite the chaos, she noticed small details about him. The slight gray at his temples, the expensive watch still clinging to his wrist, the faint lines around his eyes that hinted at years of stress. Whoever he was, he clearly carried immense responsibility. But in this moment, he was vulnerable, completely dependent on her. When the paramedics finally burst into the room, Mia stepped back to let them take over. They worked quickly, stabilizing him before loading him onto a stretcher. As they prepared to leave, one of the medics turned to Mia. "You did good," he said sincerely. "If you hadn't acted when you did, things might have ended very differently." The words hit her like a wave. She had saved someone's life tonight, a stranger whose name she didn't even know. Exhaustion washed over her as the adrenaline began to fade, leaving her legs wobbly and her mind spinning. What if she hadn't heard that noise? What if she'd hesitated? Shaking off the thoughts, Mia watched as the paramedics wheeled the man away, their footsteps echoing down the hallway. As the building fell silent once more, Mia leaned against the wall, trying to process everything that had just happened. She didn't realize then that this single act of bravery would ripple outward, setting into motion a series of events that would change not only her life, but also the lives of everyone around her. Mia's mind raced as she stood in the luxurious penthouse, surrounded by opulence that seemed almost otherworldly. The gleaming marble floors, the panoramic views of the city skyline, and the subtle scent of expensive cologne lingering in the air. It all felt like a dream. Yet here she was, face to face with Alexander Kane, one of the most powerful men in the world, who had just offered to repay her for saving his life. But what could she possibly ask for? Her first instinct was to decline politely. She didn't want to come across as greedy or opportunistic, especially after acting purely out of instinct the night before. Still, Alexander's expression was sincere, his tone genuine. He wasn't offering out of obligation. He truly wanted to help. Taking a deep breath, Maya finally spoke. "Mr. Kane, I appreciate your kindness more than I can say, but I don't know if I deserve anything in return. I only did what anyone else would have done." Alexander raised an eyebrow, a hint of amusement flickering across his face. "Miss Rodriguez, humility suits you, but let's be honest. Most people wouldn't have acted as bravely as you did. You saved my life when no one else was there. That deserves recognition." His words made her cheeks flush, but they also gave her courage. If this was her chance to change not just her own life, but her mother's as well, could she really afford to turn it down? Slowly, she began to share pieces of her story. The long hours juggling 2 jobs, the mounting medical bills, and the constant worry about how she'd keep her family afloat. As she spoke, Alexander listened intently, his sharp eyes softening with understanding. When she finished, he nodded thoughtfully. "Education is the greatest gift anyone can give themselves," he said after a pause. "What if I offered you the opportunity to pursue something greater? A scholarship to attend university, funded entirely by me. And while you're studying, I'll ensure your mother receives the best care possible." Mia's heart skipped a beat. University? It was a dream she buried long ago, convinced it was out of reach for someone like her. Yet here was Alexander, holding out a lifeline she hadn't dared to hope for. Tears welled up in her eyes as gratitude overwhelmed her. "I don't know what to say," she stammered. "This is more than I ever imagined. There's no need to thank me." Alexander replied gently. "Consider it an investment in someone who has already proven their worth. Besides, education isn't just about personal success. It's about creating opportunities to uplift others. I trust you'll use this chance wisely." The weight of his words settled over her, filling her with both excitement and responsibility. This wasn't just a gift. It was a challenge, a call to rise above her circumstances and become someone capable of making a difference. For the first time in years, Mia allowed herself to dream again. What if she could study business management? What if she could learn how to help people like her mother, people struggling to survive in a system that often ignored them? Before leaving the penthouse, Alexander handed her a card with his assistant's contact information. "We'll handle everything. Tuition, books, living expenses. All I ask is that you stay true to yourself and never forget where you came from." His parting words lingered in her mind as she stepped back into the elevator, her legs still trembling with disbelief. That evening, Mia sat at the small kitchen table in her apartment, staring at the card in her hands. Her mother watched her curiously, sensing something monumental had happened. When Maya finally explained, Alina's eyes filled with tears. "You've worked so hard for this, Maija," she whispered, pulling her daughter into a tight embrace. "Don't let fear hold you back now." Over the following weeks, preparations began. Enrollment forms were submitted, financial arrangements were finalized, and Mia started envisioning a future she'd once thought impossible. But even as hope loomed within her, doubts lingered. Could she really belong in a world so different from her own? Would she be able to prove herself among peers who had grown up with privileges she'd only dreamed of? Despite her fears, Maya reminded herself of Alexander's faith in her, and of the promise she'd made to herself long ago, to always move forward, no matter how daunting the path might seem. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of a journey that would test her resilience, redefine her purpose, and ultimately transform her into someone she barely recognized yet fully embraced. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the windows of the cafe where Mia worked, casting warm golden streaks across the counter. The air smelled of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods, a comforting contrast to the whirlwind of emotions Mia had been feeling since the night before. She couldn't stop replaying the events in her mind, the man collapsing, her frantic attempts to save him, and the paramedics rushing him away. It all felt surreal, like something out of a movie rather than real life. Mia tried to focus on her tasks, smiling politely at customers and refilling cups with steaming coffee. But her thoughts kept drifting back to the mysterious man. Was he okay? Had he made it through the night? She wanted to ask someone, anyone, but she didn't even know his name. He was just a faceless figure in an expensive suit now, someone whose life she had touched without knowing anything about him. Her musings were interrupted when the bell above the cafe door jingled, signaling a new customer. Looking up, Mia froze. Standing in the doorway was a sharply dressed man in a dark suit, his posture rigid and professional. He scanned the room until his eyes landed on her. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, Mia's heart pounding as she wondered why this stranger seemed to be searching for her specifically. "Are you Maya Rodriguez?" the man asked, his voice calm but commanding. Mia nodded cautiously, unsure what to expect. "Yes, that's me." The man stepped forward, extending a hand. "My name is Jonathan Carter. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Alexander Kane." The name hit Mia like a thunderclap. Alexander Kane, the billionaire CEO of Kane Enterprises, the man she'd saved last night. Her stomach twisted into knots as realization dawned. This wasn't just some random executive. It was him. And he, or someone representing him, was here because of what she'd done. Jonathan continued, his tone polite but firm. "Mr. Kane would like to express his gratitude personally. If you're available, we'd like to bring you to see him." Mia blinked, stunned. "See him? Like, right now?" "Yes, if that's convenient for you," Jonathan replied, though his expression suggested there was little room for refusal. For a split second, panic bubbled up inside her. What did he want? Was she in trouble somehow? No, that didn't make sense. He owed her his life. Still, the idea of meeting one of the most powerful men in the city felt overwhelming. She glanced around the cafe, noticing her manager giving her an encouraging nod. Taking a deep breath, she nodded back at Jonathan. "Okay, let me grab my things." Minutes later, Maya found herself sitting in the back seat of a sleek black car, its leather seats so smooth they almost felt unreal. The vehicle glided silently through the streets, leaving behind the familiar sights of her everyday life and heading toward parts of the city she rarely ventured into. As they drove, Mia fidgeted nervously with the hem of her uniform apron, acutely aware of how out of place she must look compared to the polished world she was being ushered into. When they arrived at their destination, a luxurious penthouse suite overlooking the city, Mia's anxiety reached new heights. The doorman greeted them warmly, holding the elevator doors open as they stepped inside. The ride up was eerily quiet, the soft hum of the elevator music doing little to ease her nerves. When the doors opened, she was greeted by floor-to-ceiling windows offering breathtaking views of the skyline. In the center of the room stood Alexander Kane himself, looking far more composed than he had the night before. He turned to face her, his piercing gaze softening as he took a step forward. "Miss Rodriguez," he began, his deep voice steady yet tinged with emotion. "I can't thank you enough for what you did last night. You saved my life." Mia swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. I just did what anyone would have done," she stammered, her cheeks flushing. Alexander shook his head firmly. "No, not everyone would have acted so quickly or selflessly. You didn't hesitate, and because of that, I'm standing here today." Pausing, he added, "I don't take debts lightly. Miss Rodriguez, please, tell me how I can repay you." Mia's mind went blank. Repay her? She hadn't expected this. All she could think about was her mother's medical bills and the endless struggle to keep their heads above water. But asking for help felt wrong, almost greedy. Before she could form a coherent response, Alexander smiled faintly, sensing her hesitation. "Take your time," he said kindly. "Whatever it is, consider it done." In that moment, Maya realized this wasn't just about gratitude. It was the beginning of something extraordinary.